Hey everyone, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm excited to get back into podcasting in my new home. And obviously, the sound needs to be improved because I still haven't had time to, or I've had time, I haven't figured out how to decorate my room and make it more soundproof for podcasting. So I should be in the closet, but I'm not. I am excited to get back on track and start doing Wellness Wednesday short podcasts for you. And on Fridays, do little fitness Fridays. So once I get a little more organized, we will do that. But today I have Reed Davis on the show. Let's bring him on. Hey everyone, I've got Reed Davis, the founder of FDN, a Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Program, as I am an FDN practitioner now and focusing on my health coaching with FDN is my new journey. So I'm excited to talk to Reed today about the D.R.E.S.S for Health Success protocol and what is nutrition and what to eat and all this stuff everyone should be working on right now. So thanks, Reed, for coming out on the show via our Zoom call today.
Always a pleasure, and congratulations on being an FDN graduate and for doing some good work in the world.
Yes, just moved towards closer to you. I'm in my new location, looking out to Elfin Forest, and Lake Hodges is my backyard down the hill. So I'm excited to have this new atmosphere and be able to work online as FDN practitioner and start my new journey as focus on a health coach to make an impact.
It's fantastic. It's a good area there. think I'm only about 20 miles from you down in Southern California, where everything's wonderful except for the dust in the air from the fires. Have you
Yes.
noticed the sunsets? They start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes, I'm blessed. We have the sunrise on our hilltop here, and I watch the sunset here each night. But I could actually see the sun a little bit more last night, so it's better than the people in the Northwest who have a lot more.
Yeah,
So today I want to
well,
talk
great.
about, let's dive into nutrition. And first, maybe just talk about what is D.R.E.S.S Health Success program or protocol we help figure out for clients individually. But the big part of D.R.E.S.S is the D word, diet. But talk about what D.R.E.S.S is and how you came up with it.
Okay, sure. Well, the Dress for Health Success program was developed over a 10-year period and continues to be refined. But it's the protocols for what ails you. It's really step two in the overall FDN system or methodology. So step one would be investigating, running the labs and finding out what are the healing opportunities, with what's out of balance in hormones, immune, digestion, detoxification. So we really look at what's wrong first, what needs improvement, what's out of balance or dysfunctional. Sometimes these things are way upstream from whatever is really bothering a person. So we do a good job of investigating first. But once we know what the healing opportunities are, we're not diagnosing anything medical. We're not going to come up with a treatment plan for that one thing. We're going to come up with a holistic lifestyle and epigenetic program that covers everything. That covers every cell, tissue, organ, and system. Now that is the backyard of a health counselor, health coach, and anyone can do it. And so step one is the investigation, but step two, putting together a personalized D.R.E.S.S for Health Success program. And step three would be run the program. Someone has to actually do the work and make some habit changes and things. But step two, the D.R.E.S.S for Health Success program. The D.R.E.S.S stands for diet. Obviously, it has to be a corrective diet, rest, corrective rest program, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. So D.R.E.S.S makes it easy to remember. Some people love the acronyms because they don't have to think. And almost everything you do, lifestyle-wise, is going to fit into one of those categories. If it's diet, it's anything you're eating or drinking. Your rest, it's your sleep time and other rest you might get. Being restful, you don't have to be totally asleep to get rest, but we know the best rest comes from very deep sleep. So diet, rest, and then exercise. Of course, you can't get healthy if you're not exercising. They say sitting is the new smoking because we sit so much.
Mhm.
So I have a desk that goes up and down. Right now I'm sitting, but so diet, rest, exercise. And maybe one of the biggest categories, other than diet, is the stress reduction because stress is so ubiquitous. It comes in so many forms. We've got even your diet can be stressful. Foods that you're sensitive to, but the environment is very toxic. And prior to being in this field, over 20 years ago, I switched, but I was in the environmental law field, saving the planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees, and they're all getting sick and dying. And I thought, well, gee, what's it doing to people? That's when I switched careers and started investigating what's really wrong with people. And over a long period of time, developed this dress for health success system. So diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction comes in all kinds of forms, and then the supplementation because food just isn't good enough quality, doesn't have the same amount of nutrients that we really need. But also, you can do things with supplements. People can self-treat. They can stimulate. They can support systems like digestion, for instance, or the immune system. And as I said, sort of substitute for what's missing from food. So it's a very holistic epigenetic program. It covers everything. It's not doctoring. It's not medicine. It's not treating anything specific. It's treating the entire being, the entire organism. Every cell, tissue, organ, and system can be improved, and you can do better.
Mhm.
And it's anti-aging. It's all about getting well and then living long, healthy, happy life.
Yeah. That is important part is thriving each day and improving our vitality, especially this past year. 2020 has been a year of chaos and different lifestyle habits for people. And I think it's a great opportunity for people to really work on their health. And as I keep saying each day, get healthy and optimize your health from the inside out by running functional lab tests as we do and investigate the whole person for those external stressors, but really find out those internal hidden stressors, as we talked a little bit about as a first step in our investigation. But nutrition is a big one people can work on now, and it's confusing for people. So what's kind of your philosophy, and what we talk about in FDN is how do we figure out what to eat? What's good for us?
Yeah, well, I've been referring people to mtdiet.com as a way to go get a little test that tells you what your basic metabolic type is. And that would make you fall into certain categories. And broadly speaking, they would be protein types, and there are carb types. And that would be based on being a fast oxidizer or being a slow oxidizer for the carbs. So if you're a fast oxidizer like I am, this is actually the rate at which you burn fuel. That's a very important piece of data. Are you a fast oxidizer? And there's always somewhere on the dial that you are, some are faster than others. But fast oxidizers need to burn slow burning fuel. So if you have a bonfire, it's a fast oxidizer. You're like you can really burn up the fuel, man. Genetically speaking, it's the way you're made. And so you got to put the big logs on it. The proteins and fats burn more slowly, and they will fuel you better. And when I say fuel, what's the purpose of that? Well, it's to produce energy. You're made of food, and you burn food or fuel to create energy in each cell. And cells don't have to be taught what their job is. They just need to produce energy to do it at the right rate, quality, and quantity. This is what I learned from Bill Wolcott. William Wolcott is the author of the Metabolic Typing Diet, and it's still my go-to book. I mean, I read it 20 years ago, and I still go to that. It's still my main source of information for basic dietary recommendations and choices and principles. So this idea of fast and slow oxidizer is very important. Good example would be you take a really fast oxidizer, and there are certain sort of geographical areas and the people who have been there for millennia, that are good examples of this. So take your average Eskimo; they're very fast oxidizers, and so they need a lot of slow burning fuel. It's the fat. They can burn fuel and have energy from now on, all over, and some protein, and not that much carbs. Matter of fact, if you take a North American native, basically fast oxidizer, and a lot of Europeans, especially the Western Europeans, people like that, they just really are good, solid, fast oxidizers, and so they need a lot of protein fat. If you give them carbohydrates instead, they get sick. They have a propensity for diabetes, for instance. If you get, carbohydrates are very fast burning fuel. So that's like putting a piece of paper on a bonfire. Poof, it's gone, and then you have no energy. On a cellular level, you're not able to survive that way. You're going to get issues. You're going to get problems, and that's been proven, a million times by a million people who have followed the metabolic typing diet and found, wow, this really works. And it took me a long time to figure that out and to finally find that system. But it really answered a lot of prayers and questions, and it's still
Yeah.
my go-to thing.
So people, should they be wanting to burn fat as a primary fuel and carbohydrates as their backup fuel tank? Some people, is that our main goal, is to burn fat?
Well, there's this. Let's start with the idea of there are macronutrient ratios that would work for you as an individual, and you can dial that in by just paying attention to the ratios. Protein and fat usually will come together. Some people can handle a little higher fat in their meat. They want the higher purine type um, meats for their protein fat, and then they need carbs too. So high quality complex carbs, not processed refined carbs. Like basically, cookies are not good for you, and ice cream is not good for you. It's too high in sugar. As a fast oxidizer now, it's not going to work so well for you. You won't produce energy the right rate, quality, or quantity. So that's a good place to start with the ratios, and you can figure them out. Again, there's a test online you can take that will give you the general starting point, and then you can, through observation, eat that way and sort of modify the amount of protein and fat on your plate just by the way it looks on your plate. You don't have to measure calories or count carbs or any of these things. No counting calories. You just eat according to the pie chart on your plate of those three elements, the macronutrients. Now, then another answer to your question, obviously, is, well, which carbs, which proteins, and which fats. If you get the ratios right, and something's still not quite right, like you feel better, you feel more energy, you're sleeping better, you lose a few pounds, and what have you, but you want to tweak it some more. It's, well, which ones work best for your genetic potential, that are going to maximize your genetic potential. And so that's where the varieties come in. Um, if you're a really fast, high purine type fast oxidizer, you're going to want to eat organ meats, fatty fish, the dark meat. And it's funny when you talk to it, just and then I'll be ready for the next question, but or to go deeper into it. But when I found this out, and I always liked white meat. I just thought white meat was cool, and I'll just eat the white meat on a chicken, because it's kind of pure or something. I don't know. It tasted pretty good. And I'd have to put a lot of salt on it though. But I loved it. But then when I read this book and I started figuring I'm a fast oxidizer, and by the way, parasympathetic dominant, I started eating the drumsticks, and they feel me so much better. I don't need to put any salt on it. It just tastes good. It's a little fattier, it's a little richer. Got the skin on there, plus it's nice and crispy, and it just fuels you. The dark meat with a little bit more fat, which you find on on the thighs and wings and these things. You know, it just feels you so much better if you're a real fast oxidizer. You feel
Mm,
more energy.
yeah.
You feel more satiated, and you feel a sense of well-being from it. Actually, makes you feel good. You know, when you're paying attention and when you're healthy enough to be able to make those observations.
Well, that's why I love using the metabolic typing diet form with people, but then dive in a little deeper of how to adjust it based on that diet record sheet that we give to clients, because it is like, okay, how do you feel? Do you need to make those adjustments? How's your energy level? How's your gut feel? And you know, do you get done eating and you're tired, or how's your energy for the next 2 3 hours? So it gives you that feedback, because I find a lot of people don't know how they feel, and they don't really ever pay attention to, like, oh, you know, I kind of actually feel sluggish after I eat every time, or I feel bloated, or I, you know, just don't feel really happy afterwards, or I have a headache. People don't really correlate that all together.
Yeah, Debbie, you know that when you feel crappy all the time, it starts to be normal.
Yeah,
You know,
sadly.
like, and people think that headaches and sinuses and allergies and moodiness and irritability and poor sleep and headaches, I mean, they think all this stuff's normal after a while. Well, it's normal for me. I've always been like this, and my mother was like this too. You know, and these sort of false reasoning. So we're designed to feel really good. Maybe not like a 5 year old. You're not going to get up and jump up and down in the bed every morning like whoopee. But you know, you should feel pretty happy and shouldn't have any bad moods unless you have a real reason to, which is possible. I get moody, but usually it's because someone has made me.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm normally very happy. I always been happy-go-lucky, you know, but the fuel you put in your body really can make a difference. You can hang on to it. So if you're one of those people who's just been sick for a long time, and you've just sort of accepted it as the way, it's going to take you longer to start to realize what good feels like. You know,
True.
when energy returns, when clear thinking, you know, you get rid of the fogginess and wondering all the time. You start to be able to focus better and accomplish tasks easier, and your memory improves, and your sleep, your sex life, I mean, you name it, your workouts get more intense if you want
Hmm.
to, and these kind of things. So it's really amazing what happens when you just fuel the body properly for long enough so that some of this damage that's been done and bad habits that can be overcome, and you get stronger and stronger.
Hmm. Yeah, I always say that when I'm writing blogs is, you know, people think that this is their new normal and they blame the aging process and don't realize you could be feeling better and live life to the fullest, rather than just like, oh, that's how it is now. You know, that's the way my body works. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I once had a pain in my left knee, and I went to someone and said, you know, I got this pain in my left knee. He says, "Oh, you're getting older." I go, "Well, my right knee is the same age as my left knee, you know, so
True. Oh, that's a good
so
point.
you know, yeah, you can't just blame it on age. Look, age changes you. You definitely um, you know, they say one should sort of gracefully give up some of the things of youth. Like I can't party like I used to. I don't. I think I don't want to. I feel so much, but you know, I can't handle that 2 3 nights in a row stuff anymore. But I'm better off not doing it. And so there's some things you sort of gracefully like leave the party early, but other than that, you know, you're doing all the things you want to do that really make you happy. You
Hmm.
know, the some of the things I mentioned.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just getting up and having a good sense of well-being and clarity about my purpose. And physically, if I'm not in pain, you know, like from injuries, because I was such an active, athletic person, you know, there's nothing I haven't tried. I got one thing for you not to try. Don't try that cordless bungee jumping. You know, that's no. But everything else, yeah, I've tried everything. You name it.
Yeah. But
And
I
you know,
think
well-worn body. Yeah.
But that's why I think it's so important to work on nutrition for athletes, is because, you know, everyone's listening to what someone else is doing or reads this program, and it's so n equals one. And as metabolic typing looks, it's more genetic. So a lot of, when people do the MT diet quiz, it asks a lot of different questions, but it gives information about slow and fast oxidizer, but we can go in that a little deeper. And then it tells you a parasympathetic versus sympathetic. Could we kind of dive into a little bit more onto those?
Yeah, sure. So a basic understanding that Bill Wolcott, who's the world's leading authority on metabolic typing, would approve of, because I try to break it down and make it simpler. If you get your energy and sense of satiation, and even your sense of well-being from the carb fat protein ratios, you really can dial that in. You just play with it. And we have those diet check record sheets you mentioned that Bill developed, and but then there's also the distribution of that energy. So that's, we say, mostly covered by the autonomic nervous system. You have your sympathetic, which is the fight flight. That's when you need the extra energy. You got to run away, or you got to fight. And we find ourselves in that mode a lot if we don't have control over it, because it's very easy to get pissed off these days. Especially if you're out in traffic and you have a job and you have relationships and you have money and you have all these different mental emotional things, you can get very sympathetic dominant. So that's more like the distribution of energy. You're producing more cortisol, more adrenaline. That can shut down your immune system. It can raise your blood sugar. It's the distribution of the energy, what's going on in your body, besides just fueling it for, and besides just for fuel. So I would repeat that the carb fat protein ratio is the most important thing with regard to being satiated and producing energy. But man, the distribution of it, you want to strengthen the weaker side. Now, I just happen to be, remember I said I've been happy-go-lucky my whole life, and it's because I'm more parasympathetic dominant. I just generally lean to rest and digest versus fight and flight. Now, that's where this maybe the carb, or the macronutrient ratios are very important to balancing your nervous system. And so are the types of foods, which ones. Because you don't want to eat the foods. If you're already sympathetic dominant, you're in fight flight, you're one of those people with anxiety, and you're just kind of the nervous type. Um, us parasympathetics, we sort of look at that and go, hey, and that person needs to strengthen their parasympathetic side, and food counts towards that. Food and supplements can count towards that. Breathing, lots of things. But at the same time, I'll say that the parasympathetic dominance, like myself, if we don't strengthen both sides, keep it in balance, we get overly rest and digest. Like, you just want to rest, like you're happy just sort of sitting, even when I was 10, I would just go, we had a long driveway, and I would go down and sit on the fence at the end of the driveway and just sit there. And I just like to sit there and just watch and look, and I would dream up things, and I'd think of stuff, and that. And my mom would sometimes say, why don't you do something? Like, you're just sitting there. I said, but Mom, I like to just sit here and think. And isn't thinking doing something? I mean, thinking is doing something, isn't it? And she'd go, yeah, whatever, like, I wasn't in trouble, so. But so you can be overly parasympathetic, and you can be overly sympathetic. And food can really help with that too. So get the macronutrient right. And then what we do for select, well, which ones? One of the first things you probably want to do is a test for food sensitivities. Like, I really believe in doing the MT test and then also the MRT test. Like, we look for what's irritating you, because when you're irritated by food, when it's causing inflammation and other reactions in the body, it stimulates the sympathetic. You get off, and if you have inflammation, you're gonna have pain. If you have inflammation and pain, and next thing you know, you've got gut problems, and you're getting a dysbiosis, and it just goes on and on and on. There's a cascade. We call it the metabolic chaos cascade. So, starts with that diet and goes from there.
Hmm. So people need to look at their slower fast oxidizer and then how that relates to if they're a sympathetic, parasympathetic. So you could be a fast oxidizer and a sympathetic person, then you need to tweak what would you adjust, then having more protein to fat to carbs. How do you adjust if you're a fast oxidizer and a sympathetic, then how do you adjust if you're a slow oxidizer and which
Yeah.
parasympathetic, what are the
Well, the classic type, it's a really good question. The classic types are fast oxidizer and parasympathetic dominant. Again, if I could go back to the Eskimo, and I'm not, just saying, I'm not using race as a basis. I'm saying genetic types. They're genetic types, and there's they just there's groups. I'm a certain genetic type. I'm never going to play professional basketball, for instance. Like I just not going to happen. So some of these genetic types, like Eskimos, they represent a classic fast oxidizer. They need slow burning fuel, like a lot of fat, not that much carbs. They need the vitamins and minerals and trace elements and phytonutrients and antioxidants and things that come with all these things together. But they need that slow burning fuel. And they're also parasympathetic dominant. Like their nervous systems are just more rest and digest. And they're not really the nervous types for the most part. I know I'm generalizing a lot, but if you look at the science, this is very true. And it's partly because they're not going to get snuck up on very easily. They see very long distances. They go out onto the glaciers and ice packs and ice flows. And I'm just talking about your traditional ancient lifestyle for most of these people. And they're just laid back and they like to hunt and fish and then go back and party, like eat and have a good time and socialize. And they're not really worried about anyone sneaking up on them. They're not a warrior tribe at all. There's no warrior tribes. Doesn't mean they won't fight you if you attack them. But you see what I'm getting at.
yeah.
Whereas you take your classic slow oxidizer, sympathetic dominant. These would be more maybe your South American people who've lived in the jungle for 500 generations, and they're very nervous because a lot of things in that jungle can eat you, and not, including warrior tribes. This is where warrior tribes come from. They're very sympathetic dominant, and they're very slow oxidizers. They eat and do very well on vegetables, like things that grow on trees or they pull up out of the ground. With the occasional, there's no whales to hunt, no big herds of buffalo and things like that. They eat a lot of, so they're slower oxidizers, and it fuels them just fine. A slow oxidizer, if you have a small fire, um, this oxidative rate, then you can put fast burning fuel on it and keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. And it works classically with the sympathetic nervous system. You keep it going. You're always looking around. I read a story once about the classic slow oxidizer sympathetic dominance, where these actually a tribe of people who lived in the jungle and had never been out of it and never seen more than like 20 feet in front of them before.
Wow.
Like they've never been on a football field, and even because they just never been out. And when they got out onto the plains, they had vision problems. They saw like herds of antelope, and they didn't know if it was ants really close, like some little animal, or the idea of perspective and it being really far away was an issue. And so I know I'm using a lot of generalities, and some people might not like that, but I'm using them just to create a model for you to understand the thing. Not saying we're all universally the same, spiritually and these kind of things. But I think those are scientific facts that when you observe them and be open to them, can help guide you.
Mhm.
It can help guide you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great analogies, and we always like to look at where your ancestries are from. And like I'm more, if you go to your 23andMe report, you can see I am Northern European, 65%, 68%, and then you can figure out a little bit too what that indication towards your metabolic typing diet of what my body does well eating more. But then there's other people I know, there's always questions that people are vegetarian or pescatarian, and if it's by choice or what they actually feel better being a vegetarian. Is that kind of what you're saying? If you're from South Africa, you didn't ever really have animal meat as much as vegetables or wherever you're from. And then maybe those people are more the slow oxidizers, but it seems like, some people are vegetarian and they feel good. For me, I feel better having a higher protein diet, kind of have to make myself go to eat more animal meat because I know I feel better if I do that, even though I'm used to always eat only vegetables. So I think that's it. So the individual
Yeah.
approach too.
It goes even deeper than that, Debbie, as you well know. Um, that it has to do with the nutrients that were available geographically and according to the climate where your ancient ancestors came from. So, and I'm the same thing. I'm Celtic,
Yeah.
like almost 100%. Although on one genetic test, I did said I was 2% Neanderthal, which which everyone says, "Oh, that explains you like perfectly." And so, yeah, you have your genetics and they don't change. You will never change your genetics. You can change the expression of those genes. That's the whole goal. That's the whole idea behind D.R.E.S.S for health success. It is an epigenetic, meaning like gene influencing program. You can influence the expression of those genes to keep you healthy and happy and old and wise and hopefully doing some good work in the world like you are, right?
Trying. Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to create. Wanted you to talk about the nutrition part because I think right now my goal is to help create awareness of how we need to get healthy and take ownership for our health and invest in our health. And meeting with FDN practitioners is really, I think, essential and crucial time of our world to be doing right now. People are able to, but at least we can give them, here's free information, work on your nutrition, when you're eating, how you're eating, sitting down, chewing your food, and simple things. But really, I just think it's so important to people to get the whole full investigation. As I've been looking at a lot of GI map labs, and I haven't seen anyone without having a low secretary IgA. So all these people with low immune function, when we should be like, okay, what can I do to get my immune system so strong as possible so I can fight off viruses and be healthy and thrive each day as we someday return to our normal. But yeah, I just think it's FDN work. What we're doing should just be filled with people every day. It's amazing.
Yeah, because FDN is not about one condition.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, the immune system, that's one piece of the puzzle. The hormones also have to be balanced. The immune system has to be balanced. The digestive system has to be balanced. Your microbiome, since you mentioned the lab, has to be balanced. Your detoxification systems have to be balanced. There's elements within the bloodstream. There's certain minerals that have to be balanced, or if you're out of balance, you're going to be sick. So it is all about balance and resiliency. If you want to be an athlete until you're old, I mean, I'm a lot closer to 70 than I am to 60. And my son was down with his boat a couple weeks ago. We went out and I learned to wake surf. Like I was never a great surfer, but I like the water. And man, I just had so much fun. I've wakeboarded before, but wake surfing is a new challenge. And everyone's on the boat. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying they're like, "Wow, your dad's really in good shape, Jason." He got right up and was playing with the wave and stuff. And so you can do. I would expect to do that till I don't know how old. 90. My mom's 90. She's still feisty, and I have other relatives that live to be 100, 98, 96. So I think that it's genetics is a good thing. but don't be too tied to them because it's epigenetic. You can express and live your longest, healthiest life as an athlete, at least being active. I don't think there's anything worse than if someone said, well, you're not going to be active, I would not be a happy man.
Yeah, well, that's what I keep trying to tell athletes on the show and focus on more. What do you want to be doing 20, 30 years from now? How do you want to be living your life? Instead of focus on the race season for an athlete that's, competitive, but what are you doing now that's impacting your aging process, your longevity? So when you are 60, 70, 80 years old, how do you want to be living? How do you want to feel? Important.
Well, I know that, this is not a long podcast or anything like that, but I have to say this, that for those interested in being in really good shape and being much older, you got to not look at it as if there's some curve like this where, well, like remember 50 was like the top of the hill and then you're over the hill.
Mhm.
That's bull. That's the old paradigm of looking at it. There's no like, oh, I'm 50 now, I'm over the hill. I got to slow down. I can't go learn to wake surf, and things like that. Take down the double black diamond hills in the winter and stuff. Um, you really can stay 40. The goal would be to stay 40, a really good healthy, until you're about 80. And like in other words, sort of not age for 40 years. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna age until you're 40. It's just the nature of things. But you could try to maintain that for as long as possible. So if
Mhm.
at 80 you're doing what you did at 40, you're in damn good shape.
Yeah, and I see that a lot down here in Southern California. There's a lot of people when I'm down by the beach and you see all the people biking and they're older. It's great to see. And then it's people surfing at older ages. It is really nice to see all ages out there being active and healthy.
I know there's in Southern California. It's full of old bearded, like surfer dudes, and
Yeah,
they're in shape. I mean,
it is.
so thank you very much. Do
Yeah,
you
well,
have any other
thank you.
questions?
That is all for today. I just want to focus on one thing is talk about, the D of the DRESS protocol, and then we'll put everything in the show notes about metabolic typing. I just want to dive into that this episode. And if people are interested in becoming an FDN practitioner themselves and really help people build their health up from the inside out, and we'll, all what we do, we'll put that in the link too, because I think it's an important thing is people are working online now and people need to get healthy and we need more of us out there.
Fantastic, Debbie. You're doing a wonderful job. Very proud of you, and I'm happy to come on your show anytime and support you in what you're doing. And
Good.
I think if people want to learn more about this, they should just hire you and walk the talk.
Yep.
Because I know you and your husband are doing great there. So thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.